A Toronto woman is looking for answers after a distressing experience with the ride-sharing service Lyft. Moments after she was dropped off, she got a text on her phone from an unknown number, and it was a transcript of the entire conversation she'd had with her friend during her ride home. Sarah McMillan has the story.
An 8-minute rideshare drive has led to weeks of unease and unanswered questions for Anvi Ahuja. Last month, she took a Lyft with her roommates to their downtown Toronto apartment. When she got home, she received a text message from an unknown number that she can only describe one way.
Freaky.
That message was a transcription of the conversation she'd had minutes earlier with her friends in the back of the car.
It was such a long, weird message, and I got really freaked out. I was like, I think I'm being stalked. I think this is just really freaky.
When she calls the number back,
we can't connect your call because your driver is not available right now.
It clearly showed to me that it's not a personal number. It's a number associated within a system. So that raised a lot more eyebrows for me.
Lyft's explanations about how this happened have been inconsistent. Ahuja says when she first spoke with a Lyft representative by phone that night, she was told the recording was part of a pilot project by the company. In later messages, the company blamed the driver for recording without Ahuja's consent, calling the behavior unacceptable. While drivers and riders don't have access to each other's phone numbers, Lyft's privacy policy says it uses a third party so they can call and text each other, which could be how the driver contacted Ahuja through a masked number. Lyft does have a recording pilot in some U.S. cities, but not here in Canada, and insists this incident is unrelated. Ahuja's experience could be more than just unsettling. In Canada, it's against the law to record someone else's conversation without their consent or a court order. Privacy experts say this incident could also contravene federal privacy laws. Anne Kavukian is Ontario's former privacy commissioner.
How can this take place? You're paying for a taxi equivalent to take you somewhere, Lyft in this case. And of course you assume that you're going to have conversations with other people in the car without it being taped and transcribed and retained. Completely unacceptable.
Lyft says it takes reports like this seriously, but Ahuja says she's not satisfied with how the company has responded.
It was not until like multiple nudges that I even got a response around the fact that we're so sorry your driver did that. I don't think Lyft took it seriously at all, and I don't think they took accountability on any of it.
Ahuja says she's done taking Lyfts. Sarah McMillan, CBC News, Toronto.
Okay, let's talk to an expert on privacy law about this, who says that he finds this story shocking but not surprising. Florian Martin-Bariteau is a professor of law at the University of Ottawa. He joins us now from Ottawa. So first of all, can a Lyft driver legally make an audio recording like this of a couple of passengers?
Hi, good evening. So absolutely not. Be it like a driver or Lyft, like you need the consent of the other person to record them, especially, in the commercial context, like it's the case here with the Lyft driving service.
And so it's against privacy laws, but
Absolutely.
beyond the legality of it, what is, to you as an expert in this area, is most concerning about this story?
So, and it's linked to like the legality of it, but that Lyft did this without any consent, but from the driver. We don't know if they got, consent from the driver to record within their vehicles, but also from the passenger is extremely concerning. And also it raised a lot of questions about, corporate surveillance. Why are they doing this? What are they doing with the recording? With whom are they sharing this? They could share this, with your boss, with if you're, a CEO with another corporation. It raised a lot of questions, and I'm getting and a lot of concerns, of course, for passengers and users of this service.
Yeah, but here's an interesting thing. The driver can hear those conversations, and he or she is clearly allowed to remember the conversations. Presumably, they can write them down or discuss that with somebody else. So what is it about making the recording that is such an important distinction?
It's from a legal perspective, it's the idea of collecting personal information. That this is the kind of legal thing you cannot collect or share with a third person or communicate personal information, that kind of data without the consent of the person. This is what the federal law is stating in Canada, and also the provincial law in BC or in Quebec. So this is a cornerstone of the privacy of Canadians in Canada, and this is one of the main issues. The other that sadly, we don't have proper regulators in Canada that could act on this, because our privacy legislation are in dire need of reform, and at the moment the Privacy Commission of Canada cannot, doesn't have the power to sanction Lyft or to order them to change the practices. This is another concern.
So we live in a complicated country, Florian. I don't have to tell that to you as a law professor. We have municipalities, we have provincial law, we have federal law. They each have their jurisdictions. In this case, we have a ride-sharing service, which is basically a private taxi service, but it's a little bit different. So if someone came to you as a law prof at University of Ottawa and said, okay, Florian, what should we do here in order to stop this kind of activity, which clearly a lot of people don't like, what's the easiest way for a government to stop it?
So everything I'm going to say is not, of course, legal advice, but so because it happened in Ontario, the federal law by PETA applies to the situation. And so if we have several, they could try to sue Lyft, but it's very complex when you're just a single user. If it appears that a group of users, of passengers, were targeted by those kind of practices, they could, form a class action against Lyft. As to the government, at the moment, not much can be done. The Privacy Commission of Canada, that is the competent regulator in this case, could start an investigation, but nothing more, because we don't have the proper legal framework in Canada. We had the bill in Parliament that sadly died on the paper order at prorogation in January. And so something I do hope for Canadians to avoid those kind of situations is to make sure we have proper framework, in Canada, especially in Ontario. And I do hope for the leaders of the different, federal parties currently, as well, in an election, to have this part of their program, to commit to protect Canadians, digital context, to commit to retable a privacy reform as soon as, Parliament resume in a few weeks. I think this is one more lessons, one more examples of why we need a privacy reform in Canada.
Yeah, I don't want to make people paranoid, but maybe part of it too is assume nothing, right? You go into somebody's Lyft car or even a taxi.
Assume the worst.
Just assume the worst, and just be mindful of what you're talking about. Even if you're just, somebody can overhear you, right? Anyway, Florian,
you never know.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I agree with you. You never know what could happen, so you need to be very careful when you're in public nowadays that, about what you're saying, so you're not recorded and it's not shared with a third party.
Yeah, absolutely. Florian, thank you very much for the conversation.
Thank you so much for the invitation to joining tonight.
Florian Martin-Bariteau is a professor of law at the University of Ottawa.